G'day again folks. What we're going to do today is something a little bit different, because often people seem to be talking about the comparative differences between the Lee Enfield and the Mauser K98. I thought I'd have a bit of a video about exactly that. Now what we have here are, for me, two comparative rifles of the Second World War. The one closest to the camera is a 1941 Australian Lithgow made Lee Enfield No. 1 Mark III Star, and the one in the background is a 1943 made Mauser K98k. The first K in the K98 stands for Karabiner or Karabiner. I'm not sure of the German pronunciation, but that doesn't really matter, meaning that it's shorter than the older rifles. And the second K stands for Kurz, which means short. So they might be doubling themselves there, but what it actually means is it's a shorter than the earlier Mauser carbines. It's based on the First World War Mauser, which was a 1898 design. The differences between the First World War and the Second World War ones being a turn-down bolt on the Second World War one, you can see there, different rear sight, and it's shorter than the First World War one. Now, having a bit of a closer look, starting at the muzzles, the Mauser's actually probably about an inch longer than the Lee Enfield. They both work out about 43-44 inches or thereabouts. Barrels approximately the same length, so 23, 24, 25 inches, somewhere around there. They both have similar rear sights. The Lee Enfield one has graduated out to 2,000 yards, while the Mauser one has graduated out to 2,000 metres. Going down to the receiver. This has, let's see here, let the camera focus, AR manufacturer's code, which I believe stands for Mauser Berlin Borsigwalder, wherever that is. So it's a Mauser made rifle, not one of the other factories. And it has the standard sort of a laminated stock. Whereas on the Lee Enfield, it's a standard Australian action. Doesn't have the slot there for the cutout, charger bridge, and so on, just on the standard Australian action. Now I'll show you a couple of differences between the bolts and what's the main difference between the two rifles. The Lee Enfield bolt design is what's known as cock on close. So this part here, the cocking piece, which is the part where the rifle is cocked from a sear underneath which goes down to the trigger, when you open the bolt, and I've got a friend to hold the rifle there to keep it in place because it's hard to do this one-handed. You open the bolt, see that comes back slightly, you would change with the next round, and you can see, I'll just swap hands here, as you close it, you see that the cocking piece stays in the same spot while the bolt goes forward. So that's now cocked. It's on an empty chamber, so it doesn't really matter. So you see that this part here, the cocking piece, cocks as the bolt is closed. So one way, folks, how to close the bolt on a rifle without cocking it is you hold the trigger in and just close the bolt. So that's not cocked. Whereas you can see there, if you were to chamber it, cycle it, it cocks. Whoop, I've done that again with the trigger. It doesn't really matter. You can see there it cocks as you close. And the spring there throws it back open because it's a strong spring. Now just close it again. Whereas the Mauser bolt, designed by Peter Paul Mauser in the 1880s, I think this is an 1898 design, cocks on open. So you see the cocking piece back here. Not exactly sure what they call it in Mauser terminology because I'm a Lee Enfield bloke. As you open the bolt, you see that the cocking piece moves back. See there? Now that it's opened. And that's cocked, so it's not actually cocked ready to fire because you'd have to, you draw it back and you chamber the next round. I won't pull it all the way back because it has the little spring-up butt magazine plate which stops it from closing empty. So you'll notice actually when you push it forward, you close the bolt and that cocking piece doesn't move because it's already cocked open. So the difference there, of course, is that's now cocked, but again not ready to fire. Well, it's ready to fire, but there's nothing in there. So I'll just close that again. So I'll hold the trigger shut from this side and close it. So the Lee Enfield bolt has no resistance really when you open the bolt, but it does has the resistance there when you close it again. I've just done that with the trigger closed. So whereas the Mauser bolt has resistance opening the bolt, but none when you close it. Oop. Again, I'm doing this one-handed, but you get the idea. So that's closed. So reach around there. So both bolts are closed. So now we look at the rifles from the other side. pretty much the similar kind of an idea. The Lee Enfield has the sling underneath, whereas the Mauser has it on the left-hand side of the rifle. Not sure of the pros and cons of either, just a different way of doing things, I suppose. What else have we got here? One thing really for me that's a bonus for the Lee Enfield, I'm biased of course, is that it has a 10-round magazine, whereas the Mauser has a 5-round internal magazine. So the magazine on the Lee Enfield is detachable, although, as many people will point out, it's only normally meant to be taken out for cleaning, and it's loaded by a clip, a charger clip or a stripper clip, depending on what you want to call it. Loading down, you put the clip in with the 5 rounds and you push them down, and there's the same sort of a deal on the Mauser. But the Mauser has an internal magazine of 5 rounds with the magazine floor plate there fixed to the rifle, whereas the Lee Enfield has a 10-round detachable magazine, and that's detached by, you press this little release here. Actually, I might get my friend to reach there and press that little release in there. So you hold that down and out comes the magazine. And you've got to give it a bit of a whack to put it back in. So, that's back in because it was closed with the... So there you go. For me, I'd rather have 10 rounds than 5. But people are going to be arguing for forever over which is the better of the two rifles. I'm personally pretty happy to have one of each in my case. Mind you, I've got a lot more than one of the Lee Enfields, but just got the one Mauser. So it's a fairly interesting weapon, this Mauser. I'll probably show you a bit closer again when it comes closer to the day, because I'm still in the process of acquiring that particular rifle. So there we have it, folks. I don't have a Japanese rifle, an Arisaka. I don't have an Italian rifle, a Cacchino, or however you pronounce it. And in fact, I'm not sure whether you pronounce it Mauser or Mauser. I say Mauser myself, but I don't have any reason for that. I am on my way to getting a Mauser Nagant, and being in Australia, the authorities think that, you know, we're not allowed to have scary semi-automatics, so I'll never have a Garand. But there you go, folks, the main Commonwealth infantry rifle of the Second World War and the main German infantry rifle of the Second World War. I say that as the main one because throughout the Commonwealth, the number 1 remained the main infantry rifle for pretty much most of the war, although the Canadians re-equipped with the number 4. So the rest of the Commonwealth pretty much stuck with the number 1, while in England the number 4 started being produced in 1941, and it took a while really for that to get right through. So there were English units still using the number 1 after D-Day and right up till the end of the war. So there you have it, folks. Lee Enfield, number 1 MkIII, short magazine Lee Enfield, the Mauser K98k. Again, if you've got any more ideas or requests or whatever, leave a comment and I'll see what I can do. Thanks guys, thanks folks, and just before I go, there's the Vegemite.